What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a deck that Kyle Pukasukovic made popular long time ago. I'd say about 4 or 5 years, I think, and that is a Legacy deck. Well, Legacy now, but at the time it wasn't Legacy, because that was the standard. But it's a deck centered around Ho-Oh-EX, the Rebirth one. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, it's a Legacy video. You guys already know what question I'm going to go for. That is, have you had anything exciting happen to you guys this past week? Or do you have anything exciting planned for this upcoming week? As for me, this upcoming week is what it always has been for me, and that is just a buttload of studying. I mean, I just kind of weekend, I lock myself in my room, and I'm not allowed out until I finish studying for like 5 hours. Don't get to eat, don't get to drink water, nothing. So I'm pretty sure that method is going to kill me at some point. But wow, that took a really dark turn. I was intending for it to just be funny, but I went too far. I apologize. I just study a lot, and it is just kind of wearing on me. But this past week I did go ziplining for the first time, which was really, really fun. And I found out that I'm kind of sort of an adrenaline junkie. I mean, that was just kind of one of those free time things that we were doing with a group of students as like kind of an icebreaker activity, get to know each other, get out from behind the books and have fun together, get in, just, yeah, that whole thing. So that was really, really fun, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, anything cool happened with you guys this past week, or do you have anything cool planned for this upcoming week? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what's going on in your guys' lives. But anyway, on to the deck. This is just a very convoluted looking, okay, so it's convoluted and it looks like a mess of a deck, but it actually works pretty incredibly now that I've played it. And basically the whole strategy is getting a Ho-Oh-EX in the discard pile with a bunch of energy, rebirthing, and then moving that energy around to stuff that can use it. And this deck is basically just what you do. Ho-Oh-EX, throw it in the discard pile, rebirth it, put a bunch of energy on it, have an attacker that is determined by the matchup that you're up against, and then you just use the energy on Ho-Oh to move it around and get attacks off. That's really just the whole plan behind it, and it works just beautifully because of Energy Switch and Shaymin. But I'm just going to go through the attackers one by one. I'm going to try to keep this deck profile a little bit shorter, but considering how many different things there are in this deck, I'm not sure how likely that is. First of all, we have 2 Bouffalant, and this is one of the first times I'm using Bouffalant in a deck, but I freaking love it in this deck. With Gold Breaker, 3 energy does 60, and if the defending Pokemon is a Pokemon EX, is attacked does 60 more damage, and it has Boofer. Any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 20. So built-in Eviolite, hits for 120 against EXs, makes the trade-off of non-EXs to EXs very, very nice. And one downside that Bouffalant normally has is its 3 energy cost, but with Ho-Oh and Energy Switch, all you have to do is just Energy Switch and attach a DCE, and boom, a Bouffalant is ready in 1 turn. So Bouffalant, just an incredible mon in this deck. I love it. 1 Terrakion for the fighting matchup. Land Crush and Retaliate are just beautiful, beautiful attacks. 3 Ho-Oh, only 3 just because, I mean, we will continually recycle them. And also if you have 4, then that kind of clogs up bench spots that you really don't want to deal with. 1 Genesect, this was a later addition by Puka for not only Megalo Cannon, but for Red Signal as well. I mean, we have a couple grass in there so that it can Megalo Cannon, but really Genesect is for Red Signal, be able to bring stuff out, essentially catch your stuff out, and attack those with your Pokemon. It's very, very nice in this deck. 1 Shaymin for Celebration Wind, just be able to move energy. Like if you are able to rebirth 2 Ho-Ohs, Shaymin just is essentially as many energy switches as you want, and you can also move around like Plasma Energy and DCEs and stuff. Shaymin's just kind of I have a bunch of energy on board that I want in a bunch of different spaces. Let's do this. Play down Shaymin. Cobalion is for the Plasma matchup. Righteous Edge is able to discard special energy, just hit Kyurem super effectively and discard those special energies, and also Steel Bullet. Nope, we're not able to Steel Bullet, so we just use Cobalion for Righteous Edge, but it does turn the Plasma matchup into a pretty easy win for this deck. 2 Mewtwo, because Mewtwo doesn't care what type of energy it has on it. As long as it has energy, it's going to X-Ball, and it's going to hit stuff for a ton of damage. And then the last mon we are running is Sigilyph for the Safeguard ability. Just be able to be like, yeah, you're an EX, you cannot touch me. And what I'm going to do in the background while I hit you with Sigilyph, while you power something else up, is power up like Mewtwo and Bouffalant and all that other stuff. So Sigilyph is just kind of a way of stalling, but also attacking at the same time. As for the items, Computer Search is the aspect of choice, because this deck actually doesn't mind discard as much as other decks do, just because, I mean, throwing Ho-Oh and an energy into the discard pile is actually a plus for you. So we have a lot of discard cards. 3 energy switches, just because, I mean, this deck relies on being able to energy switch the right energy onto the right mon at the right time, so running a pretty heavy amount of those is relatively necessary. 4 Junk Arm, absolute max number. Just, I mean, Junk Arm, we like being able to discard stuff, and we like using items from our discard pile, particularly Energy Switch, but also things like Tool Scrapper, Ultra Ball, Eviolite, Float Stone, stuff like that. 2 Random Receivers. I love Random Receivers because, like I always say, it essentially turns Junk Arm into a supporter in the right situation. Well, it does if you have a supporter in the deck, so that's the right situation. 1 Revive, because, I mean, this deck relies a lot on, like, one-of tech attackers. So let's say you're against Plasma and your Cobalion gets knocked out. You can Revive, put that thing back on the bench, and hey, you got another Cobalion. 2 switches, because this deck also has a lot of Pokemon that, like, you might start with the Terrakion in a matchup where you don't want Terrakion at all, but it has that nasty 4 retreat cost, and if you can't get your Float Stone, Switch is like, yeah, I got you, we out. And also it gets you out of things like paralysis and sleep, among others. 2 Tool Scrapper, because this deck relies a ton on abilities, so if our opponent, well, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of our mons, like half of our mons, rely on abilities, and the main structure of this deck relies on Ho-Oh's ability. So if our opponent has Garbodor, we are screwed, so that's why we are running a higher number of Tool Scrappers. 4 Ultra Ball guaranteed gets us what we want when we want. And then as for the supporters, have 3-2 of Oak and N just for shuffle draw, and for late game Oak for just consistent shuffle draw. Absolute max number of Juniper. This deck likes discarding stuff because, I mean, what you can do is like Ultra Ball your hand, Ultra Ball, get rid of some energies, grab a Ho-Oh, and then Juniper away your hand. That not only got energy in the discard pile, but also Ho-Oh. So Juniper is just, this deck really likes being able to be like, you know what, I don't have a lot of what I want in my hand, I'm just going to Juniper. And while this deck does rely a lot on combos, the puzzle pieces, like, you don't have to have too many of, like, the puzzle piece in your hand. Like, if you have, like, an energy switch, you can use that pretty much at any point. There's rarely ever times where you're necessarily going to need, like, combo pieces. So Juniper, getting rid of anything that you don't need at a certain time, doesn't hurt you as much as it does in other decks. Like, getting rid of a Rare Candy. Like, you don't play Juniper a lot in Rare Candy decks because you need Rare Candy into something else. Well, this deck has a lot of just those 1 pieces that you can play whenever, like, you can just play it on its own. So that's why Juniper is okay. 1 Shadow Triad, really to recover plasma energy with Genesect to be able to red signal more. 2 Eviolite to let our attackers take more hits. 1 Float Stone to give them free retreat. Absolute max number of DCE, because, I mean, DCE. Like, the big attackers of this deck rely on DCE, so we'll want to run max number of those. 2 Plasma Energy for red signal. 3 Fighting Energy, so that we have those for Terrakion. 2 Grass for Genesect. 1 Lightning, just because why the heck not. 1 Metal for Cobalion. And 2 Psychic for Sigilyph, and to a lesser extent Mewtwo. Mewtwo, you're really not going to be side driving all that much, but you can. That's definitely an option. So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward in terms of what this deck is. And I mean, it's really hard to talk about. It's really hard to see all that this deck can do when I'm just talking about it. So let's go ahead and just see it in action. Alrighty, we have got one against Willy Fungi with, I have no idea what type of deck that is. I mean, there's grass, there's fire, there's steel. I mean, did I even see water? Might not have seen water, but I don't know. I might have. Luckily, we do win the coin flip, so we will get to go first. I'm actually really, really intrigued as to what type of deck my opponent is running. I do start off with, well, on the bright side, I'll be able to get Ho-Oh in the discard pile along with a basic energy immediately, so that's a pretty solid thing. And we see Cyndaquil, so this is a Reshflosion deck. Interesting. So what I'm going to do is just immediately Juniper those away. I'm not going to play an energy. Well, I mean, now I'm going to play an energy because I have the DCE, because that's what I was going for. And let's go ahead and Random Receiver, see what we get off the top. It's another Oak. Not a huge deal, honestly. And I'm just going to end my turn right there. I mean, that was pretty solid. Able to get an Eviolite on my Mewtwo, able to get a DCE as well. I will be able to knock out this Cyndaquil also. So what... I'm going to want to have Genesect out, but at the same time I need to be careful to see if my opponent is playing any reversals or anything like that. Because if he is, then that will be bad. And basically I just need to start targeting down my opponent's Cyndaquils, because if I can do that, then my opponent has absolutely no ways of pulling out the win. What I think I'm going to do, Junk Arm, get rid of the... I hate to get rid of the Plasma Energy because I need that for later, but let's go ahead and grab the Switch. This way I just want to be able to reset the poison on Mewtwo. I would go for a Ho-Oh right there and then play the Float Stone onto that, but I just don't have enough energy in the discard pile right now for it to be worth my while. So let's go ahead and just switch, put the Bouffalant active, and here we go. This is something I can work with. So let's go ahead and Computer Search, get rid of the Shadow Triad and the Fighting Energy to grab... I think I'll just grab a Juniper for next turn. That way I don't have to end my opponent, and this way I get more cards. I can get rid of the Sigilyph because I really don't want that thing. And now I can... I think for the time being... Actually, you know what? Do I want to play that yet or not? Because my opponent will be able to hit me for a ton if he has a DCE. But at the same time... You know what? Let's just go ahead and X-Ball. I mean, if my opponent attaches an energy, I'll be able to knock it out next turn with the DCE that I have in my hand. I'll be able to Juniper for a fresh hand, potentially get a Ho-Oh out and an Energy Switch. So yeah, we do see the energy attachment. I just didn't want my opponent to randomly be playing double Colorless and then be able to outrage me for a ton of damage. So this is starting to look a little bit scary. Something I find kind of funny is that my opponent is playing Secret Rare and Reverse Hollow everything, but doesn't have the Full Art Reshiram. I mean, that might just be the last thing that my opponent's getting. But ooh, here we go. Is there anything worth it in my discard pile? Well, there is an Energy Switch. And there's 2 energies, so you know what? I think I'm going to try to go ahead and rebirth. Never mind. Well, what I was going to do is try to rebirth, then Energy Switch and extra energy onto the Mewtwo for later. Here we go. So now I can go ahead and Ultra Ball, throw 2 more Ho-Oh in the discard pile, probably just grab another Mewtwo, because I think Mewtwo is going to be my way of winning this game. Play the Mewtwo down there, and go for the Random Receiver, get an N. It's going to be a little less effective next turn. Actually, it's going to be a lot less effective, because it'll give my opponent a fresh hand. So a really unfortunate supporter right there, so I might as well not have a supporter pretty much. But either way, I have a Mewtwo with an Eviolite and 2 DCEs. I'm just going to start running train on some stuff. And never mind, my opponent has a Colorless, so a well played out hand to where my opponent was able to do a last card Colorless, and luckily hasn't gotten much of anything so far. I waited to play the Eviolite until now just because I feel like... Well, I felt like that was kind of the last... Like, I wanted to try to bait out the Tool Scrapper. If he did have it, then I would have been able to replay the Eviolite onto my Mewtwo. And here we go. This is where it's going to get kind of cool. Because I can try to rebirth, get an energy on board. Yes, I do. Unfortunately, it's only 2 energy because I, for whatever reason, I'm not drawing into them much at all. Let's Energy Switch... let's go ahead and do the... Let's do the grass because I want to save the fighting for Terrakion if I need that. And then let's red signal, bring up the Quilava because that is the thing that is closest to evolving into a Typhlosion. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and X-Ball, knock that thing out, take a prize, and now my opponent is even a little bit slower. I have a Shaymin. Odds are I'm not going to be in a position to play that Shaymin at any time soon because I have a full bench, and that will mean that all my energy gets wiped off the board. Well, will have had to have gotten wiped off the board most likely if my opponent had knocked out my Mewtwo, but unfortunately unfortunately for them, fortunately for me, he does not, so we are able to pull out the win right there. Just my opponent couldn't get enough going, And that's one of the problems with Rush Explosion. Once it gets going, it is one of the scariest decks in all of the Legacy format. But if it doesn't get going and your opponent is just kind of able to set up, I mean, just like I did, set up a Mewtwo quickly, take a bunch of knockouts, and at that point it's just too much for my opponent to try to overcome. So yeah, that was actually a pretty solid first match, all things considered. Got a top tier deck and was able to come through against it. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we have got another one against Guayo89, and it look, guys, of all those times that I am not getting to face, particularly competitive and good Legacy decks, I guess today is my lucky day because it looks like that's all that I've got. That's all that I'm getting. I start off with a hand that is much less than ideal. I'd really like to have a Ho-Oh out. My opponent does, okay, so it's very obviously Plasma. I mean, the types already were pretty indicative as well as the coin. But we do see the full art Lugia with the, I am just blanking right now completely, wow. With the Team Plasma Energy. Wait, is that, I can't even remember, wow, the Plasma Energy, there we go. What is going on? Sorry, I'm losing my mind right now. I guess I just don't know how to handle the fact that we actually have a good match. What I'm going to do right now is immediately get a Ho-Oh in the discard pile. I think my key to victory in this one is going to be Bouffalant, not going to lie. So let's go ahead and Junk Arm, get rid of the switch and the Ho-Oh to grab the Ultra Ball. I mean, that was more just to get the Ho-Oh in the discard pile. Unfortunately, if I had one more card, I could have Ultra Balled for a second Ho-Oh and thrown it in there. But I did not get that, and this works. So what I'm going to do is Computer Search, get rid of the Ho-Oh and the Lightning Energy. Probably just grab, do I want Bouffalant or Sigilyph? I think Bouffalant will be the best attacker for this, although Sigilyph will work in a pinch. And then I'm just going to attach the Plasma Energy to Bouffalant and call it a turn. I mean, just plain and simple, that's what I'm going to have to do with that. If I can get an Eviolite, it will allow me to survive the hit from Lugia, because right now Plasma Gale will be able to knock me out even through Boofer because of the Deoxys. So I need Eviolite in order to be able to survive, so he attaches the second energy. Get another supporter. I would have liked a basic energy, but ooh, this is not good. So let's play an energy onto the Bouffalant. Play an Eviolite so that I can survive the turn. And then, man, am I just going to have to Computer Search? A Junk Arm for a Computer Search in order to be able to get something going? Because that seems a lot more resource intensive than I would want, but I think that's what I'm going to have to do in order to keep from just losing. So let's go ahead and just Computer Search again, grab that Juniper for next turn, and I think just end it right there. My opponent needs Laser Bank in order to get the knockout, or he needs 2 more Deoxys in order to take a knockout on my Bouffalant, or Tool Scrapper, and a Tool Scrapper and a DCE to take the knockout. Well, we do see the Tool Scrapper. Do we see the DCE? Because if he has a DCE, I'm just going to cry. Float Stone's up the Deoxys, Silver Bangle's up the Lugia. That's good play. And then, okay, please, 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 no DCE. Just get an energy, regular energy. That's all I want. Just a regular energy, no DCE. I think he doesn't have the DCE because otherwise I feel like he definitely would have played that down almost immediately. Throws down another Deoxys and then just attaches a regular water energy to the Kyurem. I can work with that. I survived that turn. Let's just Juniper because I don't want another. I don't want to have to get rid of another. I don't want to have to get rid of another supporter because I already know I'm running low to begin with. So let's go ahead, play the Grass Energy onto Bouffalant, Ultra Ball, get rid of the Ho-Oh and the Fighting Energy to grab. Do I want to grab a Terrakion or another Mewtwo? I think the play is to just grab another Bouffalant and try to get that thing powered up. I have 3 Ho-Oh. At this point, I'm going to try to Rebirth, which I luckily do get, and I have 3 different types of energy in the discard pile, so I'm able to do that. And then Energy Switch onto Bouffalant so that I can get that thing somewhat powered up in the background. And now I think we're in a good spot. Actually, let's Float Stone up the Genesect as well. But now I think we're in a decent spot because we can Gold Breaker for 120, hit that Lugia. If my opponent's able to attack, then I should be able to take the return knockout. If I draw into a DCE or even just another energy, next turn I'll be able to trade 2 prizes for 2 prizes, which if you're able to trade 1 knockout from an opponent's Lugia for the Lugia itself, then that's a win for you because of how many resources your opponent has to dedicate to Lugia in order to be able to get a knockout. Because, I mean, my opponent is committing 3 Plasma Energy just to Plasma Gale and knock out a Bouffalant. Yeah, and just knock out a Bouffalant. Yeah, he gets 2 prizes, but I should be able to get a response knockout. I'm going to promote the Bouffalant. Hindsight 2020 probably should have promoted the Genesect, but I get a Psychic Energy, which really don't want. I'd rather have a DCE, so I'm just going to kind of hope that I can draw into it, and luckily I do. Luckily I draw into the DCE, so let's go ahead and play the DCE onto the Bouffalant so that I can Gold Breaker. I think Mewtwo as well, although I have to be careful about Deoxys. Then again, my opponent is slowly running out of Plasma Energy to be able to Helix Force for a return knockout on my Mewtwo. So I'm just going to Gold Breaker right here, take the knockout on the Lugia, and now my opponent has, yeah, he can respond with Kyurem and potentially knock out my Bouffalant, but he doesn't even bring up Kyurem. That's interesting. But what I'm going to do is power up Mewtwo in the background, especially since my opponent, like I said, has gone through 3 of his Plasma Energy. He'll need to use his supporter for the turn in order to be able to recur those in the Shadow Triad. So right now I actually think we're in a good position. We have Bouffalant set up, ready to hit some stuff. My opponent, interesting. My opponent lasers and then escape ropes. I mean, that's just an error of operations. You should have escape roped, then lasered, not the other way around. He's probably going to go into... yeah, I mean, he's going to go into the Kyurem to start Frost Spearing stuff, but at this point, I really don't care all that much. Because, I mean, yeah, it's going to hurt, but I can just always go right back into my Bouffalant and Gold Breaker. I'm getting all these other energies, but no way of discarding them, which I really don't like. Do I want to play that onto the Mewtwo? Because Sigilyph I don't think is going to be much help at all this game, because it doesn't stop the Kyurem from attacking, and that clearly is going to be my opponent's mode of potentially trying to win the game. So what I'm going to do right here is go Bouffalant, Gold Breaker, let it take the hit or get knocked out. My Mewtwo can always come in and clean up that Kyurem, and I want to keep the Mewtwo as clean as possible. My opponent's clearly just going to Frost Spear once again this turn, which is a smart play, but I am completely okay with that. If my opponent ends me, which he does, that's actually great because I did not have a particularly good hand. I mean, I had energy to continually be able to attach, but I didn't have ways of discarding them, and this hand is so much better. Oh my goodness. And luckily my opponent is also targeting down the Genesect. I don't agree with that, but I'm okay with it, because what this allows me to do is... So there are a couple plays I could do. I think right now I want to go Mewtwo to get the knockout. So what I'm going to do is Energy Switch onto the Bouffalant, because Bouffalant only has 2 retreat cost for some reason, which, I mean, I'm not arguing with, I'm just noticing that. None of the Deoxys have energy on them, so my opponent will need a Prism and a Colorless Machine in order to be able to get that, and I'm just kind of banking on the fact that my opponent does not have either of those. I'm going to throw both of these in the discard pile as well, activating Ho-Ohs even more so that I can potentially activate 2 if I need to. And let's Tool Scrapper, get rid of that Float Stone on the Deoxys just so my opponent doesn't have that free retreat, also so I don't draw into it later. And then I think... I can Ultra Ball if I want. I also have the ability to Side Drive, which is kind of cool. Allows me to get the easy Oko on Deoxys if I need that route. And I get the Revive, so I can bring up another Bouffalant if I want to. I'm in a great position right now, actually. Ho-Oh being able to energy switch stuff around is fantastic. I have enough energy to get one full rebirth, and then if I discard the grass energy, it'll be a second full rebirth. If my Mewtwo somehow goes down, then discarding the grass as well will be able to get me more energy on the board. And I still have that junk arm, so I have the ability to move energy around with Energy Switch and what I need. My opponent ends me, so that's kind of unfortunate. I'm hoping I draw into something decent, but at the same time, I have a very good board position. I mean, my opponent only gets 4 cards, and they're not particularly helpful cards. I even get a... Wow, I even get a junk arm. That way I can switch into Genesect if I want to, while getting another energy in the discard pile. I get 2. So, what I think I'm gonna do... How do I want to do this? First of all, let's rebirth, get those energies on board, maybe. Okay, can we get another rebirth? Yes, we do, luckily. And then let's throw these 3 energies. Allows me to, at the very least, have like an 80 damage attack if I need that. And then let's junk arm. Get rid of the grass and the... Ultra Ball to get an energy switch, which will allow me to move an energy onto Mewtwo. At this point, I mean, I could have switched, but this allows me to get a knockout on the Kyurem, which right now is the only threat. Yeah, Mewtwo takes a little bit more damage, but I think I'm actually okay at this point. Because if he brings up Kyurem and puts an energy on it, I take a knockout on that easily while powering up something in the background. If he brings up Deoxys, I take an easy X-Ball knockout on that. Thundurus, Thundurus, if he puts an energy, I have the DCE that I got off the prizes, which I'll be able to just attach and knock him out. And this is a great... Wait, will I be able to? Because I'll have 8 energy on me. If he has 1 energy, that'll be 9. That'll be 180. Yeah, I will be able to get the knockout with Mewtwo. So, this is bad. And, yeah, he whiffed that. I am so glad. Oh, yeah, that is so great for me that he whiffed that Colorless machine. Because, I mean, he also would have had to... Did he have it in his hand? Did he Colorless machine when he had the plasma? Maybe he was just getting rid of it. Yeah, he had the plasma energy in his hand. Well, I mean, I guess that works. My opponent is, at this point, probably just going to try to put my Mewtwo to sleep. Luckily for me, gets Tails. And what I can do is just attach an energy, I think. Let's attach it to Bouffalant. Do I want to attach it to Bouffalant? Or do I want to... Here's the question. Do I want to save the DCE, or do I want to play the Metal Energy? Because either way, Mewtwo's going to get knocked out coming back into my turn. I think for this moment, I'm going to retreat my Mewtwo. Let's get rid of the Psychic and a Fighting Energy so that I have another Rebirth available. Manually retreat into Bouffalant, play the regular Metal Energy on there, and then just Gold Breaker. This will set up a knockout. For next turn, all I have to do is just retreat into Mewtwo, and this way I keep the Mewtwo. If my opponent manages to power up Kyurem or Deoxys or something like that, I have an immediate Mewtwo response for a guaranteed knockout. With the DCE in my hand and the energy that I have on Mewtwo, if my opponent's Kyurem is powered up with anything... Well, as long as I keep the DCE, which I am going to be able to do thanks to the Oak's new theory... if he was powered up with anything except for 2 energy, the energy that I have on Mewtwo already would suffice. But the fact that I have a DC in my hand as well guaranteed the knockout, and my opponent realizes there's nothing he can do at this point. He would have had to just like retreat Thundurus and just try to stall, which would have eventually led to me winning, especially the fact that he did not have any more plasma energy available for those Deoxys to eventually be able to Helix for. So my opponent did get, unfortunately, unlucky on the coin flips, but I mean, most of those were laser, which would have just been unfortunate for me, but I did have Switch that I could have dealt with if I needed to. But regardless, these were 2 very, very good matches, which unfortunately is rare for my Legacy video, so yeah, I feel very lucky that I was able to get these two good matches for this awesome deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.